Alright, so as promised, here's video number 1 of 2 for today. We are going to be looking at the deck that I played to a top 4 finish at the Jackson League Cup on this previous Sunday. So, as y'all might be aware, I played the same exact 60 that I played in Bay City, just had a little bit better luck this time around. So here's the 60 right here. Like I said before, this list is super consistent. It pretty much does the same thing every single game, regardless of what you're trying to do. Start with the basics. Ultra Necrozma, 190 HP. It's an Ultra Beast. Wicked powerful attack. Psychic Metal cost. You 20 base damage plus 80 for each Psychic Energy discard off of it. With the Malamars, we can keep reloading Psychic Energies onto it so we can just output as much damage as we need to. We play 2 Jirachis as a means to facilitate the deck. So basically every time we get knocked out, we're going to promote Jirachi. We get a free trainer card out of it. Pretty solid stuff. We play 1 Tapu Lele for consistency purposes because we play the Mysterious Treasure and Ultra Balls. We can fish it out very easily to find supporter cards. We play 1 Tapu Koko, the promo one. The reason we do this is the 20 damage that it provides through spread. It sets up your math for later in games. As Ultra Necrozma has a powerful GX attack, but you can only use it if the total of both players' prize cards remaining is 6 or less. You then put 6 damage counters in each of your opponent's Pokemon. So why does that 20 damage make a difference? Very simple. If you're playing against another Malamar deck, for instance, Malamar has 90 HP. So 20 damage from Tapu Koko, 60 damage from Sky Scorching Light is 80 damage. We also played the Giratina, which has the Distortion Door ability, which lets you put 1 damage counter on 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon when you bring it from the discard pile and put it back onto the board. So that adds up to 90. Malamars go bye-bye, and therefore we get to take 2, 3, or more prizes very easily. In the mirror, a lot of people play Jirachi. Jirachi is very easy to pick off with that combination as well. Some people play Marshadow from Shining Legends as a mean to draw extra cards. I personally don't, because I feel like when you play it, you hurt yourself way too often. It just does not work in a deck like this where you don't have other Pokemon-based draw. If it would work something if we had Delphox or Octillery from the XY days, if we had something like that around, yeah, maybe I can see us doing that. You know, draw the 4 cards off the shuffle, disrupt the opponent, come back in, it's still our turn, and then play a couple cards, draw until you have 5, something like that. I'd be on board with that, but not as a standalone Pokemon draw type of situation. Everything else about the deck is very it's very consistent. Lots of 4s, lots of 3s in our counts. It seems to be the sauce. It seems to be working quite nicely. So what made my run so good? Round 1, my opponent was playing the same deck as me. He was playing a couple cards different. He had the Marshadow non-GX in there, which if he played the GX, I never saw it. I don't think he played it. He also played a couple of other cards that were just a little different. The way the game ended up shaking out, my opponent was able to find their Tapu Koko first. Mine happened to be the last prize card I drew in the game, but he was able to get enough damage spread out to 2 of my Malamars, a Jirachi, to the point where there was a point in the game where I was sitting at 3 prizes remaining, he was sitting at 4 prizes remaining, or vice versa, and we just simply promoted Jirachis and we're digging and digging and digging and digging, and I was trying to wait him out, trying to get him to make a mistake, because I knew if I don't find that Tapu Koko, I don't win this game. Luckily, my opponent did make that mistake. He made it several turns later. He had knocked out one of my Giratinas. He had then proceeded to Guzma up an Ultra Necrozma that only had 20 damage on it. He attached a Choice Band to his Giratina, swung for 160, goes to grab his prize cards and say, hold on, you're 10 damage short. He put the damage on his Giratina, puts it in Sky Scorching Light range. I was able to take it out and 2 of his Jirachis on the board, took the game, said, hey, next time slow down, double check your math, because you just gave me a win and I did not deserve it. Round 2, played against Zoroark. That game, I don't know what Zoroark does against me, to be perfectly honest. I just steamroll every Zoroark variant that I've come across lately. Just straight up, just demolished. Round 3 goes around. I'm playing against Pikachu Zekrom. with also had a little Jirachi and Zapdos action in there. Opponent goes in hard with the Zapdos, which is fine. My turn 1 consisted of benching all 4 of my Inkays and Jirachi. Ended up leaving an Inkay in the active, like, alright, go ahead. You're going to have to find Escape Rope, you're going to have to find Guzma if you want to take out, Jirachi right now. And he ended up taking out the Inkay. I get Malamar, Tina, knock out the Zapdos, Pikachu Zekrom comes back, misses a knockout. I respond with Ultra Necrozma, knock him out, and I knocked out one other Pokemon to finish off the game. No big deal. ID round 4, ID round 5, so I get in the cut safely at 302. Top 8. This is where my man Ben Telfor, dude, we've had some good games, but this one was just, it was not your game in game 2. We'll get to that. Game 1 goes pretty smoothly in my opinion, for me obviously. It's a little back and forth. He's playing Zapdos, so he's going in and he's doing everything exactly right. He's making sure he's not wasting Electro Powers, he's not whiffing attacks, he's knocking things out every chance he gets. But then came the turn where he missed an Electro Power and he Guzma'd up a Malamar, so he was 10 damage short. I was then able to turn that around and wipe his board with a Sky Scorching Light, if memory serves me correctly, and that was the game. Now game 2, this is where the issue arises, and this is one of those things, as the opponent of the player that makes an error, you have to try to be aware as much as possible. You have to take care of your own house first, but you do need to look out for your opponent, because this is a largely self-policing game. So what ended up happening, Ben goes first, he takes his turn, no problem. I go second, take my turn, no problem. I play down a Viridian Force on the end of my turn. Ben uses it pretty quickly in his next turn, and I'm looking around the board, I'm like, oh dude, your Tapu Koko Prism Star is still in the lost zone from the first game. Which we then learned after a couple minutes that it is either an illegal deck penalty because the opponent's playing with 59 cards, or it's considered an irreparable game state due to the location of the card. So as rough as that was, I agreed with the ruling. It makes sense because it's either one or the other, and both are very bad. And when you're in top cut, the penalties tend to be more stringent. They tend to be a little harder. So I get it. It sucked. I know Ben was upset about it, and I get it. I've been in that position before. I didn't cost myself a game loss necessarily, but there was an incident in St. Louis Regionals a few years ago when Raikou Electric was all the rage. Game 1, my opponent destroyed me. They were playing Donphan, so I had no chance to start off with. Game 2, somehow took it. Don't know. Still can't answer that question. Game 3, my opponent basically draw passes turn 1. I'm like, oh, this is sweet. Like, go bridge it, get my board, do this. I go to finally I play N. I look over to count my prizes. There were no prizes. So what ended up happening is, because I had deck searched 3 times, triple prize card penalty. This is before the new rule where it's your opponent takes 2 less prize cards or 4 less prize cards. So I had the highest penalty you could possibly take without giving a game loss. And my opponent then proceeded to completely and utterly steamroll me. Because they literally found everything they wanted to off those 3 prize cards they got to take right then and there. And I was sick to my stomach about it. I dropped from St. Louis Regionals at that point in time with a miserable record of, I believe I was 0-3-2 at that point in time. That was a bad weekend of Pokemon for me. So I get it. I understand the frustration. It's bad. The other one I could think of, that was a misplay. But Finley City several years ago, and plenty of you already know this story. I got all excited. I'm playing against Giratina, Reshiram, Flareon EX, whatever that deck was. It was not very good. For winning in the top 8 at the cities. And I'm playing Mega Manectric Raikou at this point in time. I'm like, okay, my opponent's got no prizes. He's got nothing on the board. I can just sit here and wait until I draw my Lysander, and so I can move this Giratina out of the way so I can knock out something else. Well, I got greedy and I misjudged a lot of different things. I played a Professor Sycamore and drew out the entirety of my deck, found that Lysander, then tried to play that Lysander in the same turn before I realized, oops, can't do that. It cost myself a top 8 there. That was awesome. Most of my friends haven't let me forget that since. All that being said, I'll go over strategies in this particular deck as I play a couple games here, but sequencing is something I'm going to be talking about a lot. Like, how do I make what plays in what order? What can I do to be more efficient? Because there's lots of little things that we all do. Oh, we'll get into this another time. That thing is a monstrosity. That's a for fun deck for league challenges only. I don't know that I would ever take something like that to a cut without further testing. So, like I'm saying, sequencing is very, very important. What order do I do what? When you're playing a deck like this one, you have a lot of moving parts at all times. Maybe not as many moving parts as some decks, but you have a lot of moving parts, especially when you play Jirachi and you have the amount of search that you have, and you have all the different abilities that you can use on a given turn. So it's okay, when do I do what and when? Hopefully I can find myself in some situations where I have quandaries or conundrums about what to do. Alright, yep, so that was our mulligan. We're going to start the Inkay. It's a pretty nice hand, in all honesty. You can do a lot with this hand. It'd be really cool if we top deck a Jirachi, and then I can use that Nest Ball and another Inkay. Okay, looks like we might be dealing with a mirror. Ooh. I kind of like that. Looks like we're dealing with a mirror. So, we like Nest Ball first, so we don't have to discard anything. I am a big fan of looking through your deck and figuring out what's where and how. So, like right now, I know I have a Malamar prized. It would appear I have a Mysterious Treasure prized as well. I have that other Ultra Ball in my hand. I've prized a Forest. Do I have that Guzma in my hand? Yes, I do. I've prized an Escape Board. I've prized a Metal Energy as well. So, I prioritize Inkay over all else in this deck. One thing I kind of came to the realization of during the Cup was, hey, I won every single game. I got 3 Malamars down on the board. And with this situation that we have right now, we don't really need the Jirachi. The Jirachi is almost a negative because our opponent's already got a Coco active with an energy on it. Man, sometimes that happens. Draw a fistful of supporters. We do have a Malamar for next turn. We do have a draw supporter for next turn. Getting there might be a little tricky, but we'll do what we can. So like I said, getting the Jirachi down right there, maybe it gets me a little out sudden. I'm still more than likely going to draw, plenty of that stuff right there anyway. So back to sequencing. The thought of the art of taking your turn properly, something that only the world champions can really attest to. A lot of it is practice, knowing your list. That is one of my favorite rules of playing Pokemon. Know your list. Because if you know your list, you know exactly what you have, where, you know exactly how your deck's going to function, you know your counts. You're never going, oh, do I have that prized? Did I use all of these already? Whatever the case may be. You don't run into that issue. Our opponent's not off to a good start, but they at least have an attacker, whereas we don't. We're probably going to have to use this Jirachi to try to figure out what we can do here. So we're going to not attach the energy yet. That would be a poor sequencing choice. Although, the way the hand looks, I could potentially, with the proper draws, find an out to an attacker and take care of that Coco. So we're going to do the old eggs in the basket routine here. Okay. The Ultra Ball makes sense because then I can thin out the hand more and get more value off the Lily. So what we're going to do is we're going to Ultra Ball, we're going to throw away the Lily and a Guzma. Not the Psychic Energy because we don't have one in hand to attach. Now the question becomes, what do I have that I can attack with? I got nothing in here, so Marshadow's no good. I only have one Malamar on the board, but I don't have the Metal Energy or Viridian Forest. So do I want to start spreading against my opponent? Do I want to just grab another Malamar, play it down onto the board? I'm actually thinking going Tina. Because I can get it now. I can play it down, get another card out of my hand. It's a little suboptimal, but we have to do it. And we'll see if we can't find something else here. So we'll play down the Viridian Forest. And at this point in time, I'm thinking, okay, well, I drew this Ultra Necrozma, but I have no means to retreat or anything like that. I have 2 Psychic Energies in the discard. I have 1 in hand. I can get 3 in the discard pile right now. But I don't necessarily want to fish out the Metal Energy. But I can still take a card out of my deck, which means at this point in time I've now increased my odds of finding the card I want by 3-ish%. Not that that's going to be a huge difference at any point in time, but it never hurts. And the other thing we've done here is now we have a little insurance that I actually have something that I should be able to threaten my opponent with. We're going to make that Giratina look a little scarier. Just to remind them, hey, we're out here. The unfortunate part about that was if I had found another Malamar and a switch, I take out that Tapu Koko right now. And then I'm in a very, very, very favorable position because my opponent's left with just a Malamar on the board. So if I'm them, I'm probably going fishing for their one-off Tapu Lele if they play it. Because, dude, he got 2 cards in hand. Grab Magical Swap Tapu Lele? Okay. I mean, it's a good card and everything. You don't have a lot of damage on the board to work with right now. So, this is something that we'll profile in another deck that I've built. Basically, Tapu Lele, we're primarily going to be using it for Magical Swap in most decks. You have to rearrange all the damage that you've managed to put on your opponent's side of the board. So it has huge uses, just far-reaching uses. Okay, so my opponent's playing Malamar Spread, which is dangerous, which means it's now a race against time for me to take care of him. Because what ends up happening is they end up spreading so much damage that I literally cannot keep up, and I cannot put in enough work to take care of him. So that being said, I know that this Tapu Koko is dangerous, and that I'm going to want to get my big guy down just so I can have an attacker ready at some point in time here. Now, we lost the Viridian Force, which bites, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. We're actually gonna use Stellar Wish before we use anything else right now, just to try to see if we can't find something else, which we don't find. Alright, so we'll attach the energy. I'm gonna take out that Malamar. So that Malamar is scary. Malamar's scary, but my opponent's got nothing cooking. And right now they have enough damage on the board to take out my Malamar and one of my Inkays. So that's the route I'm going to take. Generally, in this matchup, you really... putting the damage down is still painful, but I don't want to put the damage down on the Malamar and make it so that way he knocks it out next turn. I'd rather put the damage on the Giratina, that way so I can also recycle it and hopefully use its ability to further my cause later down the road. Our opponent is not drawing particularly well, which gives me hope. So recharge onto itself makes sense, so that way it's easier to retreat for later. That's one of those nifty little plays when you're in this kind of a situation. But my opponent is going to pick up a couple of prize cards here, which is not fun for me. That and I lose an Inkay. Oh, he's going a different route. What's he going to pull up? He's going to pull up the Mally. Retreat. So he's going to pin my Malamar active, take out both of my benched Inkays. We have a couple things working for us right now. And that is, I have a Nest Ball, which means I can grab another Inkay, and I have the Viridian Forest, which means playing the Lily becomes more of a valid option. So we'll start with the Nest Ball. Grab the last Inkay for now, because we do play 2 Rescue Stretchers. Which actually might be a card that I swap out. I might cut 1 Rescue Stretcher for something else. Psychic Recharge, put it on the Ultra Necrozma. See, if I attach the Psychic Energy here and find the escape board off the Lily, I can retreat. And then I'll have another card to use to get Viridian Forest to find the Metal Energy to take out the Tapu Koko one way or the other. We found a switch, which is fine. We don't mind the switch. We're going to toss the Ericas right now. I feel like the Cynthia is going to give me more value, because our opponent doesn't have a whole lot cooking. So we're going to leave the Koko in hand for right now. Switch into the Giratina. And unless our opponent drew just God cards, you know, Obelisk the Tormentor, Slifer the Sky Dragon, and I always forget the other one because it wasn't as cool. Our opponent's got some considerations to make. I don't honestly know what they hope to do. Let loose and let's see what happens. Okay. So this hand, totally fine. If our opponent's able to, I don't know how, but if they're able to take out the Giratina, I get to recycle it, set that Marshadow up for a Sky Scorching Light. Hopefully I can just find a Mysterious Treasure or something, evolve this into another Malamar. Now he will ping the Jirachi and the Malamar right here. So that way if he finds another Tapu Koko, he can use Flying Flip to finish off the Malamar and the Jirachi, which would be a nice get. That'd be a nice get. I appreciate my opponent helping me out with that. Didn't know that for sure, that he was going to do that. But still. So, our opponents, I don't know what they're contemplating. They've attached from hand. Here comes the Psychic Recharge, I'm guessing. Okay. Obviously, without knowledge of their hand, I didn't know if they were contemplating playing something or not. So they found another Inkay, but they don't have the means to retreat this Malamar. And the other thing that's right now, the situation is, I don't have the means to win a game with a Sky Switching Light right now. I need to take 2 more prizes before I even think about that. Oh, and my opponent might have just given me that. So what I'm probably going to do here on my turn is I'm actually probably going to end up knocking out this Giratina. My own Giratina. The reason I'm going to do that is it's going to put it in 6 prize range, and then I can Sky Scorching Light for the game. Hey, that Mysterious Treasure I was just talking about, right? So now we have another Malamar down on the board, which protects the Inkay a little bit. One thing I wish I had right now was a Acerola to scoop that guy up. So, like I said, this is the sequence of events I'm seeing. I'm going to use Shadow Impact. I'm going to knock my own Giratina out. That's going to knock out their Malamar. If they don't have Malamars, I can then Distortion Door the Giratina back onto the board, ping the Marshadow, ping an Inkay just because I can, promote this, use Sky Scorching Light, take the game. We're going to see how that works out. I don't see a need to use the Ultra Ball and do anything right now. We're just going to do this. And quite frankly, I'm going to promote the Ultra Necrozma and say, alright, find your choice band, take me out. I dare you. It's a little risky, but the math makes sense. Oh, but he promotes the Mars Shadow, which I suppose makes sense. Evolved into a Malamar. Does he have the other one too? Just to end that hope and dream right there. Well, hopefully the turn ends with their Giratina in the active, the Mars Shadow back on the bench. So that way I can ping it and go from there. The other card I'm going to really want to hope to find is Acerola, just to continue to screw with my opponent's strategy. I found the other Malamar. Okay, so I have to do this the hard way now. The hard way being, I have two options. I can either go and find my own Coco to set up Sky Scorching Light to finish this game off, or I can just hope to steamroll through them with my combination of Giratinas and Ultra Necrozmas. We shall see what works. So I'm going to be 10 damage short. I almost have to Ultra Ball and go for the Tapu Lele to get the, the Acerola. So let's see if we have it, because I didn't. So we have the Tapu Lele, but we don't have the Acerola. So we're going to grab the Coco instead. Which is a bit of a bummer, but we can overcome. All I really need to do now is find a Viridian Forest after I retreat. Okay, no pressure, right? Whew! Sometimes you get lucky. Now, the only bummer with this is, this Jirachi is going to be donezo here. But we can still set up some amount of math. Unfortunately, you can't retreat twice in a turn, so let's go from there. And fingers crossed, opponent doesn't have the Guzma or the Shrine of Punishment. And that's game. So how many did our opponent play then? They played at least 3 shrines. Well, that was good. That was a good play by our opponent. Killed my win streak. I didn't deserve to win that game. They were able to draw out of that. I thought from the start, when they were just seemingly not doing anything, they were still getting quite a bit of work accomplished. Had I found one more Malamar earlier when he took out the 2 Inkays, I think the game's a little different. I think I get that attack off on that one particular turn, and I think I swing the game back toward me. Been mulliganing a lot lately online. Don't know what the deal with that is. I think our opponent's playing Zapdos, just from the symbols down yonder. So the problem with Zapdos primarily is that they like to kill everything that you have, which is problematic at best. So, that being said, in order for them to take out Ultra Necrozma, they need to find 3 Electro Powers in a choice band, or all 4 Electro Powers right away. I'm going to take my chances. So the reason I played the switch there was I didn't want to, because what my hand is for next turn without it, I'd rather play the switch now because I know I want that Ultra Necrozma active because it's so tricky for my opponent to knock out. But it got one more card out of my hand, which allows me to do some more stuff. And again, like I said before, it seemed like every time I got 3 Malamars down on the board, which I have in deck, I seem to win the game, which I like those odds. So we have the Ace of Roll this time. I've already seen a decent little bit of the Psychic Energy that we have in deck. We're going to save the Escape Board for right now. We're going to save the Switch for right now. We're not going to bring the Tina out of the discard pile because our opponent has nothing going on. So there's nothing for us to set up with Distortion Door just yet. Now on this turn, hopefully they put down another Jirachi, they put down a Zapdos, they switch into the Zapdos and attack my Ultra Necrozma. Hopefully. I can then use the Distortion Door to hit the 2 Jirachis, set them up, cool, good to go. Now the trick's going to be, does my opponent have all that stuff? Because I don't really want to bring that Giratina out of the discard pile unless I'm hitting 2 targets for relevant math. So this would be proper sequencing on our opponent's part. So they're going to play the Lily to draw out more cards out of the deck, and then you play the Jirachi to take 1 more card out of the deck that you've then thinned out already. So he drew 4 cards right there. He took 8% of the cards out of his deck, and then he had a better chance of finding something really, really good with that last card from Stellar Wish. Ooh, the Shrine gets down. The Shrine. Hate Shrine of Punishment. Shrine of Punishment starts adding up damage really quickly, so we have to work in an expeditious manner to handle it. Now, luckily for us, we have a couple things already in hand to work here. One thing we don't have a Malamar. The other thing they have scary in this deck is Jolteon, but he's already slapped down the Shrine of Punishment, so I don't know what they're up to. So I'm going to just switch into the Jirachi and see if we can find something useful. The Lily's about as useful as it's going to get for us this turn, it looks like. Hopefully off these 3 cards we can find a Malamar. A Malamar and a Mysterious Treasure would be great. Viridian Forest is good too. We like Viridian Forest. We will use Mysterious Treasure to grab a Malamar. So the Jolteon they're eventually going to play has 200 HP. I would need to Distortion Door it twice. I can do that at any point in time once I lose a Pokemon, of course. And because I use Switch and not manually retreating, we are going to be able to take out this Zapdos right now. And hopefully our opponent doesn't respond with another Zapdos and Thunder Mountain and all that jazz. So the Jolteon now becomes the scariest thing our opponent has to offer, which it already is to begin with. The GX attack makes it immune to all damage and effects during our turn. It only does 110 damage, but guess what? When you poke everything else for 80, you kind of set up your numbers. Alright, they go and grab a Stretcher. They grab the Zapdos. They're going to bench it. Stellar Wish. Ooh, they're going to get a knockout this turn. And home team here does not have anything set up on the board currently. But we do have Nest Ball and Metal Energy in hand. We do have a Giratina in the discard pile. We do have 3 Psychic Energies in the discard pile. Hopefully I can find another Malamar. Because if we find the Malamar, we can use the Tina, and that's how we beat Zapdos, is primarily using Giratina. And then hopefully you can set up your stuff later to use a Sky Scorching Light, because they are going to get ahead on you in prizes. But you can hopefully use that Sky Scorching Light to sweep their board later in the game to take whatever prizes you need. So here comes the knockout, unless they have something else to play first. Energy Lotto, okay. Not a lot of lists play the Energy Lotto anymore. And I think it makes sense. You already played Jirachi, you might as well be able to dig and try to find your way into another energy. Nest Ball, that's unfortunate. So, luckily for us, we can effectively use the Giratina right now. So now that's set up for Sky Scorching Light. because they don't play any cards to pick up stuff. I don't think they're going to waste a max potion if they play it on that. Now, we're going to really, really hope that we can find a mysterious treasure or something else that's not these cards to get a Malamar. I think I'm going to grab the Force just to keep it in hand for the time being. So now the question becomes, what do I do with this turn? The Nest Ball doesn't do me a lot of good with my bench in the situation that it is. So I'm thinking the play right now is I'm going to utilize Tapu Lele and its high amount of HP. I'm going to hit this Zapdos for 60 damage. Put it in range for Sky Scorching Light for later in the game. I think that's the best thing to do with the situation that I currently have. If I was able to find one more energy, I would probably take out that Eevee because that Jolteon is scary. Our opponent's playing a Nest Ball. They're probably fishing out another Zapdos or a Jirachi. Blitzel. Okay, they're playing Zebstrika too. The one with Sprint. They discard their hand and draw 4 new cards. So here comes the Jolteon. Oh boy. The Jolteon is dangerous. It also snipes. Ooh, they whiffed it. They prized it. So they're only playing a 1-1 line. Unless they're just really unlucky. Okay, that's cool. So the Blitzel also has 70 HP, so we can utilize that later too. So this Inkay is going to go bye-bye, which is fine. So them whiffing the Jolteon is huge. I really wish he could Sky Scorching Light earlier in the game, but it just doesn't work that way. So because we have Jirachi with the Skateboard, we're going to promote that active so that way we get a, like I said before, a free trainer card. We hit the Malamar. Oh, that makes me happy. Now, the problem is I don't have everything I want right now. I don't have a Psychic Energy hand. I want to save these Guzmas. So that Nest Ball is not looking all that strong right now. So we're going to start with that. We're going to, again, make the Stellar Wish more valuable. We're going to thin the deck out by a card. We're still going to take out that Zapdos. And one little thing that I like to do, because Shadow Impact, you do damage yourself. When you're playing against Zapdos, you put the damage on something they're already going to knock out. So this little Jirachi is going to take the beating from the Giratina when we're done playing it. So we're Stellar Wish to see if we can't find something useful. Yeah, this Erica looks like fun. I think we can use this. Use it and we'll draw 4 more cards right now. We got some stuff. We can use this Tina next turn. We can toss it. But right now we're going to retreat, promote the Giratina we just juiced up. We're going to take this knockout as is. With our opponent whiffing the Jolteon, hopefully again, we can be a little happy right now. Even if they do manage to get the Jolteon, they're probably going to go Electro Power, attach again, Electro Power, attach another energy, use Head Bolt, or even the Swift Run GX to take out the Giratina. We can then Guzma around it and put in some fun that way. I actually kind of hope they are able to knock out the Giratina in this particular turn, so that way I can hit that Blitzel. They get to grab the Shrine, which is why we grabbed the Viridian Forest off that Stellar Wish a couple turns back. Because I don't want that damage stacking up on that Tapu Lele if I don't need it to. Cocoa Prism. Okay. And they have 1 in there, right? Nope, they got 2. Oh, okay, they found it. Electro Power, and here comes Swift Run GX. Eventually. With the board the way it's currently situated, I can't knock out that Jolteon with an Ultra Necrozma. I need one more Malamar, or 10 more damage on the Jolteon. Both of which we can accomplish on this turn, because we're going to Guzma up that Tapu Koko Prism Star. But we have to do it in a certain order or we're going to screw this whole thing up. So actually, oh darn, when I wish I had escape rope in the deck. They only need to take 2 more prize cards to win the game. How many electro powers have they used? Because I don't want to be electro bulleted to death. The possibility exists, but the possibility exists less from them doing it with the Giratina. So we'll tap that and tap that. Boing and boing. Recharge. Recharge again. Guzma the Koko Prism Star because that thing is scary. Play Viridian Force down. That thing put in all the work we needed it to put in. Throw away the Giratina. Grab the last Psychic Energy in deck. Because we got 2 stuck here on Tapu Lele GX. We're pretty happy right now. We're going to get this knockout. We'll damage ourselves, which is fine. And then we'll be down to 3. Still need to deal with that Jolteon, unless they're silly and they bench something else, which I don't think they're going to do. That's why they stopped where they did. Now, we're still in danger zone because Electro Power Choice Band and that Tapu Lele GX is as good as gone. But this is the way the game is shaken out, and this is the way we're going to have to deal with it. The Jolteon changes a lot of the math in this deck, the way they swing back at us. It also gives them the ability to deal with single prize attackers like Giratina in a much more economical and efficient fashion. So they're going back in. Like I said, if I can find a way to take 1 more prize before they are able to take 2, I can very easily set up a Sky Scorching Light and take the game. We both have very large hands. They have 9, we have 8. This is why I don't like playing against Zapdos. It's one of our... This is a matchup that requires more skill than most, because you just need to... A, you need to get a little lucky, and B, you need to find all your stuff at the right time. Which is part of getting lucky, but in this particular instance, I feel like it's even more important. So I'm still... Ooh, I like it. Alright, so they're down to 1 prize. I don't have any way to knock that Zapdos out with anything that I currently have. But what we're going to do here, because they're down on all their 3 Electro Powers, they can't take out Ultra Necrozma. But the problem is they've only played the 1 Guzma, which means they have Guzma sitting around waiting for us. I still have to take the risk that I still have to make this move I'm going to make, hoping that my opponent does not have the Guzma, that they cannot find the Guzma. I'm going to stop there though, because I'm going to take out that Jirachi. And hopefully, they do not possess Guzma in hand, and that limits their ability to find it. That's all I have to bank on at this point in time, is that particular instance. Because they're not knocking out Ultra Necrozma. They simply do not have the resources in deck to do it. Okay? Bring it on. Bring it on. Bring it on. Oh, but they did have that. Darn it. See, and that's where I did what I could, but I forgot that Jolteon has 2 attacks. It actually has 3. But without knowledge of the switch in their hand, that became problematic. But it was easy enough to assume that our opponent had everything in the deck at that point, everything in hand rather, at that point in time to do whatever they needed to do. So that was a little disappointing. The basic idea that I never got fully rolling just because of how goofy the mid-game draws got there was you want to try to loop attacking with Giratina as much as possible. The problem being the 40 damage, you have to put it in the right spot. In that particular game, when I put the damage on, I didn't know that the opponent was playing Jolteon, so I felt okay with it. And then here comes the Eevee, here comes the Lightning, they whiff it. I'm like, oh, cool, it's prized. But they might have chose not to get it because they didn't do anything to shuffle, and they were still able to find that Jolteon. So, in hindsight, what you might end up considering doing is damaging your own Malamars as opposed to the Jirachis, because the snipe damage adds up perfectly. The 40 that you put on from Shadow Impact and then the 30 from Electric Bullet equals death to Jirachi, whereas they got Electric Bullet twice to knock out the Malamar. That being said, I think if you're walking into a League Cup and you're like, I'm playing Malamar of some sort in a meta that's relatively undefined or very diverse like we have here in Michigan, where I know both League Cups this past weekend, there was a lot of Zapdos, there was a lot of Blacephalon, there was a lot of Pikarom. There was not as much Malamar stuff, which is a little surprising, but maybe I'm a little biased. I really like this deck. And then there's, the couple, like, there's a Guzzlord deck. Don't know if you guys heard about that. And then another Stall deck. And there was also a couple other random things here and there. One thing I'm really glad I didn't see is Celebi Venusaur. I hate playing against Celebi Venusaur with this deck. I mean, you can beat it, but it's just so irritating, especially when the one turn you miss a knockout, they just heal off all the damage. And you're like, oh, great, I spent 4 turns building up for that. That being said, we're going to wrap this one up now. This is one, like I said, this is one of my favorite decks right now to play. It's currently unaffected by any of the bugs that are going around in PTCGO with the Alolan Muck, apparently, even if it's removed from play, be it discard power or whatever, that the ability is still in effect. And there's something going on with Beast Energies and Blacephalon right now. But the Tablemon put something out with that, so if you guys want to check that out, he's got something out on his page right now that you can go check out. So, Orange Dragon Gaming, take it easy. Assuming I can find the hotkeys. It's always tricky because I put the microphone in the wrong spot. Anyway, so, like I said, another video coming your way shortly.